AI has been one of the biggest stories of the past few years. A lot of people keep asking the same question: who is stronger in AI, China or the West? But that is not the angle I want to take today. I do not want to compare model strength alone. I want to compare something more concrete. What kind of real economic return can AI actually generate? Hello everyone, I'm Lao Tu. Welcome to my channel. Now think about this for a moment. What happens when a project absorbs massive amounts of capital, yet generates no meaningful return and cannot pay investors back? That is the kind of nightmare that haunts capital markets, and yet huge amounts of venture money continue to pour into AI. Some people have already started calling it an AI bubble, which leads to the real question: how do you make AI commercially real? How do you turn it into actual revenue, actual productivity, and actual economic power? To answer that, let's first look at how AI companies in the West and in China actually make money. From that table, one thing is immediately clear. In the West, the bulk of AI revenue comes from subscriptions and API usage. For OpenAI, that figure is roughly 75%. For Gemini, it is roughly 85%. In other words, most of that revenue is being generated by market driven demand. China looks very different, and the difference depends on what kind of AI company you are looking at. Take Jipu AI. It came out of Tsinghua University, S Knowledge Engineering Lab, one of the most important AI research centers in China, led by figures such as Tang Jai and Li Guanzi. Its pedigree is as establishment, backed as it gets, and its biggest revenue source is government and enterprise customization, which accounts for roughly 74% of the total. That kind of company is not really being carried by open market demand. It is being carried by state-backed demand. Now look at Tongyi Chenwen under Alibaba Cloud. Its revenue is dominated by AI cloud services and compute, which account for about 75%. Alibaba is not mainly monetizing AI as a standalone product. It is monetizing the infrastructure underneath it. DeepSeek is different. It does not have the same establishment background, and it does not have Alibaba's cloud foundation. So it has taken a more direct path, the API market. ByteDance is also more market-oriented, but its monetization largely happens inside its own ecosystem, where AI improves advertising, recommendations, and content generation. Why is DeepSeek the only major Chinese AI player whose revenue structure looks even remotely similar to Western AI companies, meaning that it is driven largely by direct market demand? And here is where things get really interesting. DeepSeek's domestic API revenue is estimated at only 15 to 20%. Its overseas API revenue is estimated at 80 to 85%. And this is not just a DeepSeek story. The same pattern shows up across Chinese AI more broadly. In simple terms, Chinese AI tokens do not sell particularly well inside China. That is why Chinese AI has a much harder time commercializing the way Western AI does, through developer ecosystems and subscription models that can sustain high-value software businesses. And yet, overseas, APIs are selling fast. That contrast is exactly the point. The revenue gap reflects a deeper divide. What these revenue structures really reveal is this: who is actually paying? In the West, the direct payers are more often users, businesses, and developers. In China, the payers are more often government enterprise projects, large platform ecosystems, and bundled cloud compute buyers. On one side, you have decentralized demand from the market. On the other, you have demand being absorbed internally by large systems. And behind that difference lies something even bigger. Two very different software ecosystems. The real goal of AI is not the model, it is the product layer. Let's go back to first principles. The ultimate purpose of AI is not just to build stronger models. It is to turn AI into real productive force. A good analogy is the electricity revolution. Power plants generated the energy, but electrical appliances were where most of the value and most of the profit ended up. In the AI era, compute is the energy source, and tokens are the usable form of that energy. The appliances of the AI age, the true end products, are still being built, and building those products requires one thing: tokens. So why is token demand so much stronger in the West than in China? Because the people who truly need tokens are not traditional small merchants. They are the developers who turn tokens into software, products, services, workflows, and eventually entire businesses. And that is exactly where China runs into a structural problem. China does not have a deep independent developer ecosystem that can rapidly convert token usage into software revenue. In China, most developers are concentrated inside major tech firms, and those firms already have their own models, their own platforms, and their own priorities. Historically, China's most mature internet business model was never built around independent developers creating SaaS products or global subscription software. It was built around giant platforms monetizing traffic, advertising, e-commerce, content distribution, and gaming. And over time, each major tech giant evolved into its own walled garden, its own isolated silo that leaves relatively little room for a thriving independent software ecosystem. So even if an ordinary programmer uses AI to build a new tool, a game, or even a robotics product, they still have to face layer after layer of approvals, certifications, reviews, and platform gatekeeping. That process kills momentum, and that is why we see such a strange outcome. China's AI models keep getting better, but genuinely innovative AI native applications remain surprisingly scarce. In the West, by contrast, a developer can build and ship something in days. And because of that, AI-powered applications, games, industrial software, and productivity tools can scale much faster, much more precisely, and much more explosively. China, by comparison, risks exporting cheap tokens and then buying back a portion of the high value applications built on top of them. China risks becoming the energy base of Western AI innovation. And this is where the competition turns uncomfortable. China may end up becoming, indirectly, the energy base for the rapid rise of Western AI agents and applications. Because what the West increasingly needs is not just model capability. It needs cheap power converted into cheap tokens so developers can build faster and experiment at lower cost. That is why the real bottleneck for China may not be model quality at all. It may be the software ecosystem and the developer ecosystem surrounding those models. That is the real weight pressing down on China's AI future. If those ecosystems do not undergo structural reform, China could end up trapped as a low-cost token supplier, stuck at the bottom of the stack, stuck merely as an energy provider. Because once an application proves itself on cheap tokens, it can always migrate upward to stronger models, better optimization, and eventually high-value software sold to the global market. And that is why DeepSeek's revenue structure matters so much. If 80% of its API revenue comes from overseas developers, then the implication is hard to ignore. China may be using its own electricity, its own subsidies, and its own compute power to do the heavy lifting for Western AI innovation.